back. Dear Rabbi Gruen, thank you for your wonderful platform of advice and chizuk. I marvel each week anew at your ability to provide such thought-provoking Torah-based responses. Thank you. As such, I hope you'll be able to help me understand how to address the following issue and help me see it with a broader perspective. I'm happily married for X amount of years to a wonderful man who treats me very kindly, Baruch Hashem. Wow. Nevertheless, ever since we got married, I felt that my husband is bothered by my appearance. Okay, here we go again. This is something I addressed last week and this week in Yiddish here too. Firstly, I'm quite short. Although he never told me directly that my height is of concern to him, he did mention many times that he wishes he didn't mention. He implied on many occasions that he'd wish that I'd be taller. For example, he prefers that I always wear shoes with a high heel or platform, even on weekdays, even at home. And when I casually try to describe another person's height by referencing my own, by saying something like she's about as tall as me, he'll immediately respond, no, she's definitely taller than you, implying that I am very short. Another aspect of my appearance that my husband seems disappointed with is my choice of clothing. Although I put in a lot of effort to dress fashionably and always look neat and collected, my husband mostly does not approve of the way I look. When I ask him for his opinion on which dress, shoes, wig to wear, he says that he's not sure what I should wear, claiming that he's not well versed in women's clothing, but rather he feels I'm not making enough of an effort and that most of the stuff in my closet must go. It pains me that things like my height and lack of fashion sense, which are completely beyond my control, are an issue to my husband. Therefore, is there anything I need to do to make my husband satisfied and pleased with my appearance? If so, what is it? Okay, so yeah, a bit sensitive. I'll start, just by validating the fact that you're hurt. I mean, I understand that if somebody makes comments or implies that they don't like how you look, it's hurtful. Yeah, and I would probably feel the same way, even though I'm not a short woman. But I think it's more than normal. Normally, I only address the questioner, right? But I think it's important when we talk about such a topic, such a discussion, to address the issue. I don't want to say to address the husband. I don't know if he's listening. I hope he's not listening. I don't care if he's listening. But there are husbands like that out there, and there are wives as well like that out there. Actually, there are those that will imply that they don't like. I'm just mentioning it just to flip the coin and give the other example. Women that will imply that the husband's job is not a good job, or that he's not such a big Talmud Chochem. But not like that one or like this one. It's the same thing. People make comments, and they're not sensitive enough in what they're saying, and it's hurtful to the other person. So I hope that nothing I'm going to say now will make this woman feel even worse, because now that she knows that her husband's maybe doing the wrong thing, which he thinks he is. But it's very important to understand that backhanded comments and the ones that imply what you're thinking, what's really in your mind or your heart, it's very hurtful. Right? It's one thing when you tell someone to their face something sometimes, like, I think you're doing the wrong thing. Okay, that doesn't feel good. It's another thing when you don't say it clearly, so you say it between the lines. It's like a subtle message, and that's why you say it again and again and again, because you never really said anything. And it's very... Now, the answer is that most people that make these kind of comments, they don't mean to hurt anyone, which just makes it more confusing, because when you want to hurt someone, at least you said it either in a moment of anger, or you said it for a certain reason, or at least there was a clear intention, we could talk about it. But when you don't mean it, it's harder to address. And sometimes you really didn't mean it. You were just venting your own frustration about how you feel about something. So it's confusing. Nechsam Sofer says, I once mentioned it, and I once saw it in Nechsam Sofer, and I couldn't find it since then. So if anyone has a source for this, I would appreciate it. But he says it very clearly. He says there are people that are very professional. If I'm not mistaken, he says it somewhere about Moshe Rabbeinu addressing maybe the Eidev Rav or someone. He said there are people that are very good at always using allusion, always using a certain way of talking that could be understood two different ways. They'll never say something, they won't say anything bad straightforward. They'll say it in a way that's not very clear what they meant, so that when you try to catch them on it, why'd you say that? No, I meant that. They're always going to make sure to say something. He calls it mishtamal l'trayin ampen. It could be understood two different ways. Like this, they always play safe, and they get their message across, and they do something that... Now, the Tzemach was referring to people who had bad intentions. They have bad intentions, but they want to hide their bad intentions. They don't want to be called out on it, so they say it in a way that the bad intention wasn't clear. Mission accomplished. The other person got the message, and they played safe and said, no, I didn't mean anything. So that's something that, whoever has such bad intentions and does such things, be aware of. It's a very not nice thing to do. The fact that you could clear your conscience, or the fact that you could clear your slate and not take the blame for a comment, because you could always say, no, I didn't mean you, I meant that, I didn't. It doesn't mean that you didn't do something wrong. But sometimes it's so subconscious, and this is why I'm talking about it. I'm not talking about it to call out the husband who's making these comments. I'm talking about it to bring awareness. That's something we don't even realize, how we can say something, and we're not even sure if we did mean, we didn't mean, but it's being heard. Or it could be misinterpreted. Put it like that, it could be misinterpreted. What you're saying has two meanings. And even if you meant the right one, it could be interpreted as the wrong one, so you shouldn't say it. That's what sensitivity of speech really means. Just recently saw a Toisus in Bruches, Daf Lamates. Daf Mem. Toisus says that if somebody has it's a Mishnah in Bekirim, if somebody has a field and he's bringing Bekirim to the Beis Mikdash, and his well dried up, Yuva Shamayim, and Nixas Ilan, his tree got cut down, so he shouldn't be koyed. He shouldn't say the parsha of Bekirim. He should just bring the Bekirim. He shouldn't come and thank Hashem for the land. So it's machlekes if he should or shouldn't. This explains that according to the Rebbe, the reason why you don't thank Hashem for the land is because it could sound like you're really complaining about the land. Now you have a guy who's coming to the Beis Mikdash and he's thanking Hashem. So thank you Hashem, you gave me the land, here are the fruit. But being that his land is not such a good land anymore because the well dried up, right, and the land is in need of a lot of help, saying that, it almost sounds like, I hope I'm not adding my own pshat to the Tosfos. Maybe I only saw the words when I was thinking about this topic in preparation for what I'm saying now, but it sounds like it could be interpreted like a certain sarcasm, where somebody says, yeah, thank you for the land. This is the land that I have. The land that, it's not going to get fruit anymore because it dried up. You know what? If you're not happy with your land, don't say anything. Don't say. Now, he could have very good intentions. But being that the land is not good, don't come and thank for the land. It could sound like you're complaining. I think this is an important lesson. Either because the person you're talking to is too sensitive, or because it's possible that really you do have some intentions behind your comments because you're really not happy about something. Be very careful what you say about that whole topic or to the whole person if it could be taken wrong. So that's one idea that I think is very important for people to understand after hearing a letter by a woman who's being hurt by those subtle between the line comments that are showing her or making her feel that her husband's not happy with how she looks. But what she asked for wasn't that. She asked for what kind of perspective or what she could do about it. So I think that's really what I wanted to address. I'll try not to elaborate too much, but I think the first thing, which I often point out, I think people have to hear it, is you have a wonderful husband. That's what you said, and I believe you. Right? You're married for X amount of years, and you have a husband who is, just to find your words, he's a wonderful man, he treats you very kindly, Baruch Hashem. Again, don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted. Yeah, there are things that bother him, maybe he says things he shouldn't say, but the fact that he's a wonderful person, don't forget that. Don't forget that. It's all a package deal. Everything in this world is a package deal. There's so much good and there's so much not good, and that's what this world is made of. And every person has the good parts of them and the not good parts, and we choose to focus on what we focus. But it's just important to remember when you start off, and it's not just, as a disclaimer, I have a wonderful husband and I'm being politically correct by saying he's a nice guy, but that is very major. It's very major. And you have to think about it. I was recently by a chasna. I don't think every chasna you see this, maybe a lot of them you do, but the band, it was very professional, and there was a switchboard. I know most one-man band guys have this little one, but this one had like a huge switchboard. There was like 100 switches on that switchboard. And I have no idea what they do with these things. I can't understand it. But a whole night, you have a guy standing there with his headphones. He has a big one and a small one and an iPad and this. And a whole night he's changing his dials, pushing things up and down and turning. To me, it all sounds the same. I wonder if anyone in the hall even notices that somebody's doing that. But it seems like the whole night, every song the choir was singing and every song that was being played, there was something to change. There was something to change. Like this mic had to go up and that sound had to go down and this beat had to be there. Whatever it is. Whenever I see that, it always reminds me of this thought that I probably said it in the past. Most people, I think almost everyone, if they would get a switchboard that comes along with each child, for example. Each child, Steve, Kinder, you have 10 children. Each one has a little switchboard near their bed. And when they go to sleep, you could change the dials. Right? You can change the dials, any dial you have. The huge ones, you have a lot of different dials. Whatever, I don't know what they control, but they do something. One's the sound and the volume and the this and that. I think everyone, every night, would change something. You walk around to the bedrooms and change. This child has to be a little more happy. This one has to be a little more serious. This one has to be a little more subdued. This one has to be a little more lebedik, a little more social, a little more ehrlich, a little more warm, a little more this, a little more derecheresdik. I think almost every night, everyone would be switching almost every machine. You'd really have a parent that says, you know what, it's fine. No, again, you have the opportunity. You can change whatever you want. No, it's good. It's exactly the way I want. Exactly? There's no exactly's. There are children that you'd be busy, breaking the dial, turning it all the way to the end. There are children that you should be, just tweaking a little bit. But that's life. With real people and real relationships, there's always something you want to change. And if you have dials on yourself, you probably also want to change them. I think you should want to. My point is just that everyone in every marriage, there's always going to be the things that you might not like, and you should learn to deal with and think about and do. But don't forget about don't look at the fact that you might want to change something as, oh, it's no good. It's very good. It's very good. This is something that I think everyone has to understand. Another point that I tell people often when people are repeating insensitive comments or insensitive actions, I believe that nobody means bad. And let me tell you what I mean with that. It doesn't mean that there are no bad people, and it doesn't mean that every time somebody did something bad, it was unintentional, it was a mistake. It doesn't mean it was a mistake. But nobody means bad. Just recently, a guy was calling me about a family issue where his brother, said some not nice things and was manipulating and causing whatever kind of friction. I said, just remember, your brother didn't wake up in the morning and say, let me try to do a bad thing. I want to hurt people today. No, he has his justifications, he has his agendas, he has the reason why he thinks that what he's doing is not so bad, he has the reason why he thinks he's allowed what he's supposed to, or it's going to bring something. Just remember that before you get too overtaken. It doesn't mean that he did the right thing. It doesn't mean you don't have a right to be upset. But it's always important to remember, he doesn't mean bad. He doesn't mean something hurtful. And that's even if someone said something intentional and they knew what they were doing, but it still doesn't mean that they wanted to do something bad. So I think that every time a husband tells a wife or a wife tells a husband something that's hurtful, most often it's not coming from a bad place. Certainly not when it sounds like this. It doesn't sound like this is done to hurt or to get back. It's an expression of how he feels, and maybe it's wrong. Maybe he even did have in mind that you should hear his feeling, but not because he's trying to hurt you. Remember that. Now, in general, the fact that he doesn't like that you're either short or your choice of clothing, or that someone's too tall or too fat or whatever it is, taste and preference, it's all relative. It's all personal. We all have our own things that attract us, the things that we like. It's not personal. It's not personal to you. Yeah? If you like or don't like something about me, right? It's more about you than about me. Now, I wish everyone would like everything about me. I wish everyone would like everything I have to say. I wish everyone would like everything I do, everything I stand for, everything I believe in. It doesn't work like that. And it's important to remember, especially when it comes to taste and preference and things like this, when somebody's attracted to something, not attracted to something, it's not personal, right? So you want to live in one neighborhood and he wants to live in another neighborhood. You want to live in this house, you think this is nice, he wants to live in another house, right? Most people know that that's not personal. You like when we live on one floor or two floors maximum, and I like when we live on 6, even if it's small. It's taste. So people who take that personal and get into arguments and fight about it, it says something about them. Why are you taking it personal? No, but if you would love me, then you would this, you would that. No, nothing to do with you. This is just what I like this car, you like that minivan. It's the same, even when it gets closer and more personal. If I don't like your choice of clothing, it says something about me, not about you. It doesn't say I'm a bad person. But it has nothing to do with you. It's not personal. It's not that you're no good. You don't have to take it personal. And it's important to remember this. And this is a mantra that I think people should remember often. Whenever anyone's hurting their feelings or doing something they don't like, it's not about me. It's about them. Whether they're doing something wrong and it's because they're no good and they're doing something wrong, or it's just something that they like and not about me. And it's just, something to just remember. You're talking about perspective. Remember, you have a wonderful husband. He doesn't mean to be bad, and anything he's expressing is about him and his taste and not about you. That's Now, it's not easy and not comfortable to be assertive and say how you feel, but I think that very often with the right attitude and the right guidance, it's important to tell someone how you feel. Just last week I was saying a shir to Bukhrim. You look at it like it's trivial, but it's all the same. All the examples, it's just a different context. With two Bukhrim in yeshiva, someone did something and the other one did something, and the other one wanted to know, are you going to be hurt if I do this? He said, no, I'm not going to be hurt. And really he was hurt. And all that kind of, probably high school girls and whatever else, you see all the same stuff. Now, it's always nice for boy A to ask boy B, is it going to bother you if I do something? He's being considerate, right? But if boy B is not vulnerable enough to say, I'll be honest with you, it's going to bother me. Please don't do it. Then that's his problem. It's on him to say, that really does bother me, don't do it. If you don't say so, how is he supposed to know? How is he supposed to be careful with your feelings? This was something that I said in the shir for Bukhrim. Even though the one that was asking the question was the first one who already asked his friend. I was just helping boys understand that if you don't tell someone how you feel, they might not know. I think that a woman who's hurt by these comments is allowed to tell her husband. Now you have to know how to say it. You don't say it when he makes the comment. And you don't say it in a way that makes him sound bad. And you don't say, listen to the shir and you'll see that you just did something very mean. In a gentle way, you can let him know that I'm sure you don't mean to hurt my feelings when you say these things. When I hear you say it again and again, it doesn't make me feel good. I'd appreciate if you don't make those kind of comments. Most often, when you say something like that to someone, especially when it's officially unintentional and not even, it wasn't meant to sound like that. Very often people say, well, that's how I say it. I never said something like that. Sometimes they believe their own story, sometimes they don't, sometimes they're just embarrassed and they don't want to admit. It's okay. Once you said it, say, oh, that's fine. And when I hear it, or when I think you said it, it's hurtful to me. And I've seen this many times where people have that way of, again, they don't mean anything bad. You have a wonderful husband. I really don't mean that he means to hurt you. But people who say things like, yeah, that's because in your kehillah they do it like that. And they'll say it every once in a while. And I'm sure you don't mean to hurt my feelings. When you say that, yeah, because in your kehillah they do it like that, it makes me feel bad. It makes me feel like you look down on my kehillah. No, not at all. I just meant, I'm sure you didn't mean anything. No, when did I say it? I never even said it. Okay. If you could try to be careful in the future and not say something that would imply that you look down at my kehillah, it will make me feel better. It's okay. As long as you're very careful not to sound challenging or personal, that's Now the last thing that you finished was, what do I need to do to make my husband satisfied or pleased with my appearance? Again, it's all relative. It's all relative. Without getting into detail, without knowing too much details, I was recently talking to a young man who had a certain request of his wife, that she do things a certain way, and she was resisting and saying that she doesn't have to. And they made up, which I thought was very responsible, they made up, let's ask someone. And they meant it. Let's find out if my request of you is reasonable, and is something a woman should do for her husband, or it's not reasonable. And they both agreed to that, which again, I thought that was also, number two, a great move number two. A, that they wanted that one of them suggested that we ask someone, and B, that the other one agreed. That's wonderful, right? So far, so good. They went and asked someone, and I was actually surprised both by who they chose to ask and what the answer was. I'm just repeating it, and it doesn't matter the context because I'm not trying to prove that point. The answer was that yes, a woman should try to find favor in her husband's eyes, and if this is something he's asking her for, then she should do it. Now, I'm not going to say the rest of the story because it's irrelevant. My point is that, very often, when a woman knows what she could do to satisfy her husband, if there's something she could do, and it's not out of bounds, it's not unreasonable, it's not, when and if it's not unreasonable, there's something to it. That's my point. My point isn't that she should or she shouldn't, or it's always or never. There is something to it, where a woman knows what it would take to make her husband happy, and she decides on her own, not because she's being forced to. If she decides on her own, you know what, let me do this because it will make my husband happy, it's a good thing to do. It's not a bad thing to do. So if you know that there are things that you could do, that's, and you choose to do them because it will make him happy, and this is what's important to him, and you love each other and care for each other's happiness, I think it's a wonderful thing. Now, again, like I said, you have to be reasonable. Know when yes, know when not. Know when you could do it, know when you just can't do it, when you don't have to do it. But, somebody repeated to me something cute recently, and I'll just repeat it. I think it was Rabbi Zilber, if I'm not mistaken. He was big in Kiriv, the Russians, and he had this way of making decisions where sometimes he was afraid that his decisions he's too subjective and too emotional about something. He didn't want to trust his own decision. So what he did was, he would put himself in a bed, and he would say a few times, Yitzchak, you're dead. Yitzchak, you died. Yitzchak, you died. And he would imagine basically that he was just dead. And when he got to that state where he was not here anymore, that's when he would be able to trust his decision. In other words, what would I decide if I wasn't here anymore? What would I decide if I wouldn't be getting any recognition, I wouldn't be embarrassed, it wouldn't affect me in any way. And he was able to bring himself to that place of being that objective. Now, and it's probably a big madraiga, I don't think I could do such a thing. My point is just that sometimes it's the emotions that get us to make certain decisions when we really know that the right thing to do is maybe something else. I'm not feeling good about this. I don't like how it's being addressed, so I'm not going to do it. Now, really, is it the right thing for me to do it to try to please my husband? Maybe. But I don't like the way he said it. Right? I'm sending it the other way. Right? How many times a husband, his wife is asking him to do something, I don't like how she said it, forget about it. Now, I'm not talking about when you're being forced and you're trying to show someone that they should stop forcing you. In general, why is she asking me to do this? It's the wrong thing to do. It's not the wrong thing to do, and technically it will make everything in my life easier, but I don't want to do it because sometimes it's just good to remind yourself that if it's the right thing to do, it's going to make people happy. I don't like how it was addressed. I don't like this. I could try to address how it was addressed, but at the end of the day, it might be the right thing to do, especially when you could keep on reminding yourself, I'm doing this because I want to, not because I have to, but I want to. I want to because it's the right thing to do. I want to because it's going to make myself and my husband happier. I want to just reiterate, I don't think that any husband saying such comments, especially a good husband, a nice husband, means anything bad. Very often, you're too close to someone to be truly considerate. There are very many people that, when they're talking to someone else, I'm not talking about with putting on a facade and trying to impress people. There are people that, the people that you're closest with, you're the least considerate of sometimes. It's not necessarily coming from a bad place. You're just so comfortable that you think you can say whatever's on your mind. I think this is just a reminder to all of us that, sometimes it doesn't work like that. The people closest to you are the ones getting the most hurt because those are the ones you're feeling the most comfortable to say whatever you want. So I think it's very important to remember that it's not so simple. So the short summary of what I said is that yes, any husband, any wife who's making these subtle, between the line, backhanded comments that are hurting someone, if you did intend it or you didn't intend it, or it could be misinterpreted, be careful. They hurt. And that's what sensitivity of speech about people you care about really means. The perspective of the woman is that, you have a wonderful husband and it's not about you and I don't think he means anything bad. And if it's bothering you, I think you could say that it's bothering you and just make sure that you're saying it in a way that he can handle it. And if it comes to pleasing him, and there is a way to do it, if there's a way to do it, and you want to do it, then go ahead and do it because you want to do it. I think it's going to get you very far. So I think it's important for all of us to remember that, just like the Maluch in the Mishkan was Da'ev Hoyser, so much about it was the feeling. There are feelings of love that we have that even if you don't do anything or say anything about it, it comes across. You see that somebody loves you and cares for you, and you want to show that, and the other way around as well. Sometimes you have certain feelings that you want to make sure don't be noticed, even if you're not saying them or doing anything about them. And I yourself with the right amount of sensitivity and communication and the right perspective and a lot of siyat d'shmaya, we have to live together.